Everyone tells you how to level up in life, but no one really tells you how to survive the version of you that's dying. And see, I help women navigate the dead space between who they were and who they're actually becoming. And I'm hoping in this video that I can talk to you while you're in the middle of the fire and challenge and change the way that you think about it so that you can change your life. And I want you to know that my name is Lala. I'm a transformational life coach. I help strong women drop the identity that's killing them and re-engineer their life. I want you to understand I have 3 ways on how you can survive the version of you that is dying. And the number one way is radical honesty. Not honesty with the world per se, but honesty with yourself. The reason why a lot of strong women find themselves in the predicament where they feel stuck, they feel unmotivated, uninspired, unhappy, anxious, etc., is because you have lived a life up until this point by someone else's rules and by someone else's conditioning. They made you believe you had the job. They made you believe you had the children, you had the money, you had the career, you have the spouse, that you would have the happiness, you would have the contentment, you would have the fulfillment. But what you're learning very quickly is that that has all been a lie. But you have to be radically honest. Not just a little bit honest, but you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be willing to seem ungrateful. You have to be willing to seem different. You have to be willing to be perceived. See, the fear of it all is that you don't want to be perceived. You don't want to admit to yourself that all this hard work that you have done up until this point, that you don't really want this life. You don't want to be honest with yourself and say, you know what, all of this that I've worked so hard for, it's not really in alignment with who I truly am internally. But it's truly in alignment with the way that people made you conditioned to believe. Up until this point, you may have ignored the feelings of not being satisfied. You have been able to ignore the feelings of not having a life that's full of pleasure. You have been able to ignore being in a life where it's high stress, a life where you are not content and you're not fulfilled. But the interesting part when you're in an identity crisis is that you're learning very quickly is that you have to be willing to be radically honest. What part of you is still hiding? What part of you is still not being honest with yourself? What part of you are still ignoring the things that you truly desire because you're afraid of being shamed, you're afraid of being judged, you're afraid of being perceived? And per se, it may be the world, but also with yourself. You may be so afraid of being perceived and judged by yourself. But when you decide to be so honest with you, when you decide to be radically honest with you, not only does that shake the very foundation that other people laid in your life, but it allows you to see things for what it really is and not from the lenses that you've been looking at it from. You allow yourself to see things for what they really are. You allow yourself to get in alignment with your truest desires, your heart desire, when you decide to be so radically honest with yourself. When you decide to really cut the noise out, when you decide to cut the noise at the hem, when you decide to say, no more am I going to live a life of someone else's. No longer am I going to live a life based upon someone else's rules and regulations for me. When you decide to get so radically honest with not only yourself, but the world around you, you allow yourself to get in tuned with your heart's desire. The second way, how you're going to survive this version of you that's dying. Complete and total surrender. I know. We hear this word surrender and it's like, oh my God, what does that really mean? The reason why you feel so much pushback in your life, not only are you running away from radical honesty, but you are trying to be in control with the way that this stuff fall apart. You want to be able to control, and you want to be able to have a say in how it looks and how it feels and how it's seen. But the crazy thing about life is that we're truly not in control in those aspects. It's like you're going against a tidal wave. The more you go against it, the more you get pushback. The more it feels stronger, the more it feels bigger. But the moment you allow yourself to completely surrender, the moment you allow yourself to float with the waves versus against the waves, you experience something so beautiful. And I'm going to tell you what you want to experience. You experience utter peace. You ever floated in water? You ever went against a wave and how hard and how like brute it was? But you ever like went and floated on water and how peaceful it feels? It may be waves all around you. It may be people making noise, maybe people splashing water. But for some reason, when you're floating, I don't know about you, but when I'm floating, I feel this internal peace. I'm being held. I'm being supported. When you decide to be, and when you decide to step into complete surrender, it's not about ignoring what's going on. It's about realizing that this is bigger than you. It's about realizing that aspects of you that have gotten you to this point is not going to get you to where you want to be or where you desire to be. A lot of us want to avoid being stripped naked because it to us signals being vulnerable, and to some of us being vulnerable means being weak. But when you decide to try to just take off the sock and take off the sleeve, but you don't allow yourself to be completely stripped naked, you still find yourself living a life that is conditioned by other people. You have to be willing to be completely stripped naked. You have to be willing to be completely and utterly vulnerable. And that is where surrender come in at. You have to surrender to the part of you that say, you know what, no more. You have to be willing to surrender to the identity crisis, to the grief, to the pain, and believe within your heart that it's going to be okay. When you trust in the journey, when you allow yourself to surrender to this situation, when you allow yourself to surrender to this journey, when you allow yourself to be stripped naked, you are able to cut off the noise. You're able to really tunnel vision. You're able to really focus on what it is your heart truly desires. See, when you got all the conditioning on, when you got the programming on, when you got all the clothes on, all the judging, all the limited beliefs, it's hard for you to decipher between your desires and the condition of someone else or the desires of someone else. But when you allow yourself to be completely stripped naked, when you allow yourself to be completely and utterly surrender to the journey of it all, you get real up close and personal with your true desires. Number 3, which is the third way that you're going to survive the version of you that's dying. And I sprinkled it in a little bit, but it's trust. See, the beautiful thing about trust is that a lot of people talk about it in the aspect of, trusting God and trusting people. But the way I speak about trust is trusting yourself on a cellular level. What does trusting myself look like, Lala? It's believing without a shadow of a doubt. It doesn't matter what storm come up against you. Doesn't matter how wild, how chaotic the storm look. You have this knowing, this deep knowing that you're going to be okay regardless of it all. The reason why a lot of you don't, or the reason why you don't trust yourself in that capacity is because you have made a lot of promises. You have not kept your word. You have not showed up for yourself. You have not given space for yourself in the way that you give space to those around you. So no wonder you don't trust yourself. No wonder you can't depend on yourself. No wonder you can't lean on yourself. But in this journey, in order to survive this version of you, trust is something that is needed. You're going to need to trust yourself. I don't care how dark it look, how ugly it may look, how many tears you don't cry, how scary it may look. If you learn to trust yourself on a cellular level, if you learn to trust yourself, you're going to have this deep knowing, no matter how crazy it get, that you are going to be okay. And how do you trust yourself? You learn to keep your word to yourself. You learn to treat yourself the way that you would treat your best friend. How you will make space for your best friend. How you will love your best friend regardless of how they look. How you will support your people. You will treat yourself the very same way that you would treat those that you love that is near to you and dear to you. That's how you grow trust with yourself. Being a person that you can depend on. Being a person that you can sit next to yourself and see yourself beyond the flaws, beyond the shadow, and still be able to hold yourself and accept yourself and love yourself. Trust is going to be a big part of this journey. A lot of people say, oh, I need to trust God. And I believe that's a big part of it. But I believe the way that you can trust God is by trusting yourself. When you trust yourself so deep, when you trust yourself on a deep level, you have no other choice but to trust God. Not only the God within you, but the God all around you. When you start trusting yourself and start holding yourself in that aspect, when you start really making space for yourself, you start to see how God is working with you. You start to see how it all is working for you and not against you. You start to see, regardless of how it looks, no matter how much of the fire is burning up around you, you start to have this knowing that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to make it through. This is all working for my good. That is what deep trust looks like. That is what deep trust looks like. The way that you're going to survive this version of you that's dying, I'm going to go over with you again, is you're going to have radical honesty with yourself. Number 2, complete and total surrender. And number 3, a deep trust for yourself. And I'm going to give you a journal prompt to leave you with. Get your pen and paper. The journal prompt is, where in my life am I working against what is coming up for me? What part of your identity are you trying so hard to hold on to? Write that down. Write that down. And really sit with that. Where can I trust myself more? How can I trust myself more? Whether that's keeping your word, whether that's showing up for yourself, whether that's, loving on yourself. Where can I have complete and total surrender in my life? Write these things down and really sit with them. Make space for you. All right. Until next time. Bye-bye. I want you to like. I want you to share. I want you to comment below in the comments and tell me what you thought of this video. All right, I'm going to go for real now. See you later.